Alright, so this is part 2 of the series of videos on the future of media. And where we left off, last time we kind of got to this view of the potential within this kind of global sphere of media is a tool to awaken consciousness on a planetary kind of level. Almost like a planetary enlightenment, right? And so what we're going to do here in this video is we're going to kind of continue to go over some of these ideas by looking into the future. And see how that's actually possible. Create this kind of planetary awakening. So the thing is, one of the first things that has to be revived in this kind of mass of media, right, is a sense of aliveness, right? Because enlightenment is not just some, light that just shines somewhere, right, in your body, or from God comes down, right? Enlightenment is not just some light, but it's enlivening, right? It's the enlivening of the body, of the mind, of even ideas, right? Spiritual concepts that come alive in our experience. Or a temple or a sacred work of art, right? It brings this life, right? This inspiration, this bringing breath. And the ancients knew this process of putting this life breath into objects or places. And as we talked about in the first video, this kind of example of these kind of primitive, humans creating these so-called artworks, right? They were alive. They were filled with their experience of consciousness. And they didn't see them as some kind of, dead product, right? And what's happened now is this, in this kind of so-called mass media, is that, the sacredness and the potential of images to create this kind of sacred feeling has been reduced to commercialization and political propaganda. Partly due to our tools, this technology of a camera or photograph just mechanically creating a reproduction of the world. We don't need to, infuse any consciousness into our acts of creation. We just click a button. I just point and click. And that's supposed to create, a replication or a representation of reality. And all it's doing is creating a view or representation of reality that's based on this mechanical state of mind, this kind of materialist notion that it's something I hold in my hand with all this electronic information and gadgetry. If I just hit one button, right, take a photograph, and then take a look at it, print it out, that's reality. And that's not reality. That's just a mechanical product. And so we're just filled in this kind of mass media with this commercialization, right, of all these images just being used for commercial purposes. And so it's kind of the example of the divine goddess, right, where they were creating these carvings, right, out of stone of these goddess figures. Now that we take the divine form of the goddess and use it to sell alcohol, right? Or market a movie, market anything, just, you know, becomes a commercialized tool, even the divine form of the goddess. And so this kind of idea that the aura, right? The aura has left, the artwork has left, you know, this media that was, again, originally meant to express divine sentiments and to exchange consciousness. And in a deeper level than just this kind of surface manipulation of consciousness based on fear and greed. And so what's needed is individuals or groups of people that are infusing this media with consciousness, right? And sacred, you know, divine sentiments. Because it's possible, right? And somehow it's become so, this kind of standard idea that these tools, you know, can't be used in that way, right? You can't make YouTube divine. You can't make Facebook divine, right? No. It's just a social network and people wasting their time. But the potential's there, right? And so all it is kind of re-envisioning, right? Re-envisioning this technology, this kind of mass media with the enlightened state of consciousness. And so what's happening now is that as this kind of media kind of mass evolves and forms this kind of spread out, you know, network or nervous system, collective consciousness, at the same time the subtleness of the media is becoming more and more experiential, directly experiential in nature. What I mean by that is an example is, you know, like a 3D film, right? You go on this giant screen and you see all these you know, worlds, you know, computer graphic worlds or just some kind of film, right? And it's just popping out at you and all this surround sound. And the thing we have to understand is you know, when you know, yeah, we had this divine potential, but at the same time, the negative potential is incredibly high as well, because when you had this kind of gigantic screen and all this, you know, realistic kind of demonstrations of light and sound, right? Which is all it is. But when it makes this realistic experience on such a grand scale, our mind, you know, our being is not able to say, you know, or to create the distinction that this is just a movie, right? And so we, as much as we would like to think, you know, we're able to just go experience, you know, this kind of, you know, a violent movie or this, you know, horror film, right? This popular films of today, and no, it's not affecting me. No, it's just the entertainment. It's just something that, you know, rationally, my mind, you know, yes, this is a movie. You know, it's in the background that I understand that this is not a real experience, so-called. And it's just information or just this kind of entertainment. But that's not true, right? Your being can't possibly, you know, take this powerful imagery and can't possibly see that is different from any other experience that you're experiencing yourself. Yeah, again, something maybe like 10%, right, of your mind and being or whatever is yeah, it's in that space. Yeah, this is just another show, this is another movie, and these are just actors, and all that blood and all that violence is not real, of course. They wouldn't actually kill 1,000 people to make a movie. So yeah, your mind is saying rationally, yeah, but that's, this rational formation of the human consciousness is relatively new within the human experience, the evolution of consciousness. So that's only a relatively new segment. And so the rest of your mind and the rest of your being, right, and the spirit has no way of understanding this experience as anything other than real. And so what that means is when you go into these movies or watch these television shows, these crime dramas, or this news or whatever it is, it's even though it's based on a completely illusory kind of experience, the deeper levels of your body and mind are taking it in as reality. And what that means is it's a part of your spirit, right? Or you could say your karma, right? It becomes a part of that. And so when you leave your body, all those experiences that you had in these this kind of media experience is gonna be there, right? Just like any other thing that you experienced, so-called real experience, right? Because all experience is media, right? The senses are media. That's it. That's all they are. There's no actual reality to anything, right? So again, that's why we took this view that the body itself is some sense of media, right? And the senses and the perception is a medium through the mind and brain for consciousness. And so when you have this vast, digital electronic media that creates such a realistic experience, then the difference between that and seeing it through your eyes and this kind of so-called real world, it's the difference is becoming blurred. So again, when you leave your body, these kinds of impressions are going to be there. And especially when it comes to these interactive worlds, right? These 3D hyper-realistic video games, right? Where, for the most part, right, with a few exceptions, we're basically just graphically manufacturing thousands of hells and selling it to kids. So here, go kill all these zombies. Go shoot all these, you're in a war, and go murder thousands of people. And it's just graphically. You're just getting points, right? The more you kill, the more brutal acts of violence, the more points you get. But again, that's just getting, almost hardwired in the nervous system and the spirit on a spiritual level. You could say the soul, or this kind of continuing cycle of mind and body. It's kind of patterns that make your soul just keep experiencing things over and over and over again. And the fact that we have, millions of people, entering into these kind of hellish worlds, we have this is just 10 years old. This is a new phenomenon. We have no idea of the implications of this kind of, experience. And so when you leave the body, you'll experience that. You go through it all. but it won't be like you won't have a controller. You'll be immersed. So that's where the potential for detrimental effect on the consciousness really increases when you have such realistic, presentations in your mind and body through this so-called mass media. But if we want to kind of look at the positive potential, from a spiritual or enlightened or just compassionate perspective, right? See, the thing is, it's not just necessarily saying, okay, well, we'll just get rid of all the media, we'll just get rid of all this technology. That's one approach, and that's a valid point of view for sure. But the thing is, we can't just ignore this mass structure of media, right? Because it's just not going to go away, right? Unless there's some kind of mass meltdown of society, but that's not a good option either. Mass chaos, right? You just can't force people to turn off their TV or not go to the movies or throw away their Xbox. So the thing is, from a spiritual point of view, what must be done is that this consciousness must create spiritual alternatives, right? And it's not even a alternative like, okay, well, this is good and this is bad or something like that. No, it's saying wait a minute, we got a whole spectrum of consciousness that we're just not even tapping into with this technology. Just look at the example of live streaming, right? You take this kind of video conferencing, right? Where for years people just use it, for a boardroom meeting or something. You just take that same technology and put it in the hands of an avatar, right? And see what happens. So the same thing can be done, with video games. Very easily. Imagine, the Bhagavad Gita, right? 3D, video game experience. Where you play as Arjuna and you're this king, this king, and you have to go into the battle and shoot all these arrows and stuff. So there may still be some degree of, might have to compromise a little bit to appeal to this kind of mass audience. But the thing is, then you have this Krishna, right? Character, 3D representation, just beautiful divine form that is filled, right, with thousands of years of sacred sentiment. And you take this Krishna form, this kind of 3D, world, and all of a sudden, before the battle, right, or whatever, he starts giving this discourse to you as this main character, right? And then you're not just experiencing it like some book or some discourse, right? But no, it's like he's talking directly to you because you're identified with this main character, this king. And so when Krishna, this 3D character, when he reveals his divine nature, when he explodes in this kind of consciousness and reveals to you this amazing universal consciousness that he's expressing through him. Wow, then it becomes real, it becomes embedded, and just like this so-called this kind of negative media, these violent video games, just like your being, right? 90% of your being has no understanding that this is not a real experience. So the same way, when you have this sacred kind of spiritual truths being presented in a very kind of realistic, living kind of way, impacting you, right? And wow, it'll just be, it will be unavoidable, this kind of experience. And so that's the future of media, right? Is creating, powerful, spiritual experiences, right? In the same way, or similar to how, if you go into like a horror film, right, and with all the kind of suspenseful music, and it's a science, right, to create this fear. It's a pure science. And they're studying, you go to film school, this is how you create suspense and fear. So in the same way, or similar, I don't want to say the same way, but in a similar way, we'll have a film school. Well, this is how you create divine films. And this is how you create a sense of bliss, right? A sense of an expansion of consciousness, right? In a peaceful way. This is how you have a character, radiating, represent this kind of subtle aspects of consciousness, the auras and the radiation of consciousness, right? All can be easily, represented very, very, so-called realistically, I guess you can say. It's like a hyper-realism. It's like a supra-realism. And that's really where this kind of enlightened media is heading. So again, when you then the same way you walk into a horror film, you just have to be impacted, you have to, it's almost unavoidable. You just walk in, oh my God, this is this scary experience, right? In the same way, you walk into this divine film, right? You just walk in and wow, you just feel this sense of relaxation all throughout your body and mind, and somehow it's like this strange experience that it's in the background of your awareness. Well, yeah, this was always there, but this is, the spirituality is not about creating enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a creation, right? It's all pervasive. It's already there. It's already in your awareness, not necessarily your awareness, but in your being, right? The enlightened state is within everyone now. It's not in the future, but somehow we just, have shifted our focus or attention away from that to such a degree that it just seems like it's not there, right? So in the same way, these kind of enlightening, this enlightening media will just kind of angle the awareness in a beautiful way towards that kind of realization, right? That's been clouded over by all this attachment to self and all this kind of media, fear and greed, that creates this illusory separation, right, from the source. And so this enlightened media will be like a stream, just kind of leading people, into that awareness in an unavoidable way, right? As long as you're there sitting, all you have to do is sit. You don't have to, it's not you don't have to take on some kind of belief, right? You don't have to have some kind of superstitious feeling about it or whatever. No, you just go and sit, and the media will be created with such a science of bliss, right? A science of consciousness that it'll be unavoidable. Again, similar to how we're creating the science of these so-called Hollywood films and all this. But in order for that to happen, the artists themselves, the directors, the producers, you know, at least half a dozen of them, right, will need to be, you know, radiating or realizing this full kind of awakening of consciousness and existing, you know, their center of being, you know, in the crown chakra, right, the chakra of gratitude and enlightenment, right, rather than being down in these kinds of cycle of lust and fear and greed and all this. And of course, it's not like there's no spiritual films out there on the market, or there's, you know, lots of spiritual moments, you know, any kind of film. You know, it's not like necessarily a kind of rigid thing that it has to be this kind of religion or this kind of point of view to create a spiritual experience. No, you can have a spiritual experience with lots of films nowadays. But what I'm saying is, you know, rather than just that being kind of a haphazard or accident or just somehow, well, yeah, there's some, you know, it just, you know, people had this emotional, you know, positive spiritual experience, this connection, right, that happens in a film. No, rather than just saying that this is some kind of accident, right? No, making a science, developing a science out of it, just like the rishis, right? They didn't, well, yeah, they said any kind of word, sound, yeah, maybe accidentally it could lead, you know, towards this positive vibration or create healing in the body, but let's not just let it be a matter of accident, right? Let's actually make a science out of sound, right? Using these mantras. Let's make a science out of spirituality, right? With yoga, right? And the same thing can be done with the mass media. With films and video games and all these things. And so when you combine that, again, with the kind of mass proliferation, right, of the media, then you can see how the impact could be profound. You know, one divinely inspired film, right, could reach an audience of millions. You know, filled with the science of samadhi, right? And can awaken the actual, you know, potential energy in the body, right? And then, you know, for the people that already have kind of a conscious lifestyle, right? That already have a beautiful connection, right, with these divine forms. Then for them, you know, for that kind of audience, the potential is endless. It's unlimited. And you could give an example with this 3D technology of an avatar, right? A holograph. And so that's really one of the major next steps in the media to be expressed, right? On a large scale, within 10 or 20 years, a couple decades, you know, we'll all have these holographic living rooms, right? Or a holodeck, right? Just like Star Trek. That'll be a reality. You know, mass available, you know, $1,000, a couple $1,000, there you go. Just like everybody's getting these, you know, flat plasma screens and stuff. That's the next step. You know, we got, how much more high definition can we get? No, that's not, it's not about getting more and more high definition, no. It's about having this holographic, fully three-dimensional experience in your living room. And so imagine this, having the avatar, right? A being that you're connected with in a profound level, right? Or even just a friend, a loved one, right? That lives on the other side of the planet in a different country. And say, all right, well, let's meet holographically. And so you have this holographic chair or whatever it is. They come in your living room and it's like they're there. They're in their holographic room and you're in your holographic room and you're no longer separate, right? And especially if you already have a profound, feeling connection with that individual. Again, even just a loved one, right? It's like, wow, you're there. And of course it's not a full representation, right? But still, just to have that 3D form, because it's going to connect with all the layers of your being, right? That have already used to seeing these kind of three-dimensional forms and all that kind of, intellectually you'll know, this is the form and some kind of light show or whatever you want to call it. But no, your being will be able to connect. And again, so if you could do that for a loved one, right? Like a spouse or child or whatever it is. Imagine the greatest possible relationship in the cosmos, right? With an enlightened master. And here he comes, he's sitting on your couch. In your living room. And this it's not a matter of religious belief or superstition, the effects that will take place. Because you'll be able to very easily measure, right? Somebody sitting there and what the experience their whole body, right, goes through when their loved one or enlightened master comes and sits holographically in their living room. It'll be shown, scientifically. And the transmission, from an enlightenment kind of perspective, the transmission that can take place, the non-verbal transmission that can take place is unimaginable. And this, again, it's not to replace a physical experience or physical contact, right? Because that is the ideal. That's, eternally. We can understand that with, a loved one, to be there physically connected is the best way of creating that kind of full experience in the body and mind and spirit. But what this does is creates a opening, right? Right? Because an enlightened master or whoever it is can only physically be in one place in one time, unless you kind of realize some kind of power and put your consciousness in lots of different beings. But that's a whole different story. It's a whole different topic. But yeah, the body of the master can only be in one place physically, but holographically you can have this kind of direct experience in millions of homes. Just there in your living room, look. And the effect that could have on the collective consciousness, right? It's profound, because then it's like having millions of masters, right? Just from one body. Existing right all over. And it could be a 24-hour experience, right? It could be constantly, you know, sending out this kind of holographic form. There it is. Living in your own home. And the thing that we need to understand is that this is not just, well, yeah, that's a great idea, you know, for the spiritual people, right? Or that's just a nice possibility. It's a necessity, right? You know, it has to be spiritualized, this mass network of media, for the survival of the human endeavor. Because we can, for a moment, just take a look at the alternative, right? This unconscious media, when it gets hold of this kind of powerful holographic technology, could you imagine what they're gonna do with it? You know, creating a, you know, holographic horror movie, right? Where the killer or whatever is hiding behind your couch and he just pops up. Just imagine the fear and greed and lust and all these things that this kind of immersive technology could create. And when it's in that kind of holographic realm, which is an inevitable thing that is a part of this media evolution within the short amount of time, it's going to be there. And again, if we have this kind of mass unconsciousness within the media, the sense of delusion that would be created would be nearly unstoppable. You know, imagine like a war movie, just where they're shooting and like it's there and the bullets are coming out of the gun and they're landing on your floor. It will happen. You know? It's unfortunate. I mean, it's... And that's why, again, since this powerful technology is being developed, and, you know, again, it's not a luxury to have some kind of enlightened state, or it's not some kind of, you know, spiritually trendy thing, you know. This is not just an option, this is a necessity, you know. We have to, you know, fill this media with more consciousness. It must be done. You know, or else, you know, the only other way is just pure chaos. Just, all right, mass shut down the electrical grid, right? Shut it all down. No more Wi-Fi, no more cell phone, no more communication, no more food supply. That's dependent on all this technology. No more vehicles, no more travel. Just shut it all down. The whole thing. And so that doesn't really present us with it's a valid option, but that's a last resort. You know, we don't want to have to resort to that. So again, that's why it's so essential. It's not just like a you know, fun thing to do or some nice foo-foo idea. No, we need this mass spirituality, just filtered all throughout all this technology. And of course there's no technological barrier or scientific or whatever. There's no barrier. It's just this kind of worldview and then this kind of sense that imagery and our experience of representations of reality of this media has become, this commercialized product, right? Or this factory kind of thing, this non-living thing. And once we see the media is non-living, we're reflecting ourselves and how we see it. So if we just see it as this kind of dead object, then we become these dead objects, right? The self, this unlimited self of super consciousness just becomes this kind of dead thing. This I, this constrained I, right? This just sees all this kind of unliving so-called mass media, right? So again, what's needed is this infusion, this kind of this sacred sentiment throughout whatever mediums possible, right? As much as possible, as rapidly as possible. Because we can look at it, again, to have kind of a positive view, or like last time we kind of talked about this opposite 9/11, just this bliss, this global kind of experience of bliss. Okay, we'll take like an iPhone or any kind of Android phone, this kind of computerized phone, right? Now imagine if every single phone, right, that has a screen, that has an image, that has video or sound, right? All these billions of phones. Imagine if all of a sudden right now, right, they all just had a like a divine form, right? Pop up. All of them. And not just one, divine form, or not one religion, but it would automatically, whatever that individual, right, is connected to, whatever the highest, kind of most divine, life-sustaining, life-giving principle, or whatever it is, the most beautiful thing, right? They can imagine a graphical representation of that shows up on everybody's phone. Blam, like that. Right now. Could you imagine, right? Also, and then it starts interacting with them, right? So if you are a Christian, an image of Christ shows up on your iPad. It says, "Yes, son, it's time to wake up." Or if you're a Buddhist, the Buddha comes on and says, "Hey, look, go meditate," right? Realize non-self or whatever. Whatever the Buddha, whatever connects to them. Or Shiva comes on your iPod, right? It says everything's auspicious. There is no duality. And we may think that's just kind of a nice idea and just kind of whatever, it's kind of idealistic fantasy, but the thing is, it's not. There's no technological barrier. You could easily have this kind of representation, right, created in a beautiful divine way. And so that's the future of media, right? In an enlightened society, right, that's practicing this kind of enlightened conscious lifestyle. When you take out your iPhone, there, God will be there. When you turn on your TV, God will be there. When you go into the airport and you're watching these TVs, there won't be some broadcasting some nonsense CNN, right? but these divine messages will be shared, right? There's no barrier, right? There's no technological barrier. And so, but then we have the kind of course, you have people, well, there's no God, and how dare you try to make me feel blissful, right? There's people that will hold on to this sense of limitation of suffering, right? Or suffering's beautiful, right? You know, why should we take out all the violence? It's beautiful. Yeah, kids playing video games and shooting all this. Oh, that's great entertainment. You know, it keeps, you know, that way we don't have to worry about them. We'll just let them play these games. So that's the thing. That's the main hindrance, right? This kind of addiction to delusion, right? That this media is just creating more and more and more, and that's why it has to be, you know, a spiritual, at least as an alternative, has to be presented in all forms of media as quickly, you know, and as widespread as possible. And whether it's a living avatar, a living enlightened master, or, you know, some kind of spiritual tradition or whatever religion, you know? A 3D representation of Buddha giving discourses, right? Or Christ coming down, right? And sharing his teachings. Whatever form it is. Or even if you know, well, I don't, you know, not any of these incarnations, just some kind of form of nature, right? Like the forest shows up. That's the thing you're most connected to. The forest shows up on your iPad and says, hey, you know, why don't you come outside? Come sit, enjoy a tree. Enjoy a lake or a river. So the thing is, you know, how this, you know, it seems kind of like a fantastic, this kind of almost like a utopian idea. All of a sudden, all this media, you know, rather than showing all this kind of negative violence and greed and fear, just radiating the divine, right? It's like God or the existence having billions and billions of mirrors. Every computer, every laptop, every cell phone is a mirror, you know, potentially, for the divine. And the only resistance, again, is just kind of, well, I don't know, some kind of doubt or well, you know, CSI, that's a really well-produced show. It's really well-produced, and these video games, I mean, they're kind of fun, you know, all this violence, yeah, but, you know, they're really engaging, right? So really the approach, you know, moving forward, you know, because it can seem impossible, you know, how could that possibly happen, you know? Because as we already kind of discussed, it's not an option, right? It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. You know, for this planet to begin to heal and to, you know, become more conscious. So the thing is, moving forward, what has to be done is alongside this kind of creation, you know, of divinely inspired media, you know, in all the different forms, all the different aspects, what has to be shown alongside with that is the science, right? The science of consciousness, right? And the science of how negative emotion impacts the environment. You know, how one word placed on a jar of water can change its molecular structure. And of course, you know, the body's mostly made out of water, so it will be shown on the whether it's using, you know, a theater filled with divine mantras, right? Thousands of year-old mantras just being chanted for you know, through the speakers for 2.5 hours. Maybe a nice visual. Okay, you know, put 100 people in there, right? Test, you know, do all kinds of tests before they go in. Test them 2.5 hours later, right? Simple. We have the technology to test that. And the same thing, you know, have them go in to see Batman, right? Or some kind of violent film. You know, or horror film, right? That creates all this fear. Okay, test their bodies. Right, see how it's functioning before they go in the theater. Then check again 2.5 hours later. See what it's like. And so that's why. And then you can have the whole range. You can see here, this is what it's like when you spend 2.5 hours in a theater filled with a sacred sentiment and divine mantras, or you know, healing tonal vibrations, right? And this is what it's like when you spend 2.5 hours watching a horror film, and you know, whatever else is in between, or even at the other extreme, the positive extreme. This, you know, having a, you know, avatar that you have a feeling connection with, right? 2.5 hours on a large screen or 3D, right? And his voice, you know, just immersing the whole crowd through the speaker system. Test them too. See what their body's like, right? See how their cells respond. And so that's why that's really going to be the approach moving forward, because it's not going to be a matter of you know, belief, right? Because people, in some sense, understandably, with all the kind of injustices committed, right, in the name of religion or so-called spirituality, we can understand why, you know, people wouldn't want to just take on, you know, another belief system, right? So it's not just going to be a matter of belief or some kind of, you know, spiritually new age kind of idea, like, oh, if you watch this kind of film and it creates this kind of experience in your aura. I mean, it's not that that's not necessarily true, but that's not what's going to kind of make this kind of mass, you know, acceptance, right? Of a more conscious media, right? A more enlightened media. No, it's going to have to be step by step, you know, demonstrated and proven on a scientific, you know, level playing field, right? Which it can, right? It can be shown. And this idea, this other kind of idea, right? I mean, that's kind of from the materialistic standpoint for people that are just, you know, no religion, no spirituality, everything's just atoms and stuff. Okay. Well, with your, you know, so-called objective modern science, right, we'll prove how having a sacred sentiment, a sacred connection with an object person or film or painting, whatever it is, actually changes, right? Your cells. Creates a healing effect throughout your entire body. So we'll show you on that level. Then if you choose, not to be healed or not to have a healthy body, that's up to you. It's not, there's no, can't be forced, of course. It's not kind of a forced revolution. It's not a revolution through, through fear or through greed. It's bliss, right? It creates its own kind of flow. And intelligence. It's a highly intelligent consciousness as well. And so it's not even like convinced on the realm of philosophy or some kind of idea. No. Well, again, for most part in this kind of modern society, it's science that creates people's, ultimately when they say, well, this is real. Well, it's the scientific field. Even if they think they're spiritual, just, partly because of all this conditioning, from a education system that is just, taking on this kind of materialistic view of existence and just, feeding it to kids, right? For dozens of years. So even if you have this kind of spiritual experience, 20 years later, all that kind of embedded, scientific point of view is still there. So that's why, again, in order for this kind of understanding or acceptance of this on a massive scale, right? It will need to be proven, right, on this kind of scientific playing field, which is very easy to do. It's not hard. Like I already gave the example, test some people in different kinds of films, right? Before and after. That's just one example. And what this kind of study will show is that it doesn't even necessarily matter what form, a spiritual film with the image of Buddha or Shiva or Jesus, right? When created not for some kind of, sadistic mentality, right? Where you show all this, needless violence, right? But from an enlightened perspective about sharing the ultimate, healing and blissful and cosmic truths of existence, right? It'll be shown that the bodies, right, experience the same thing, the same experience with all the forms not even necessarily essential. And what will be shown is that the intention, of the people involved in making that film or art or expression, their awareness, their consciousness is what really is creating the impact in the viewing audience. So what this means is that once we start actually scientifically measuring these things, and on one hand seeing all the negative, detrimental societal effects, right? The detrimental bodily effects, the mental effects, psychologically, from experiencing all this negative media. Oh, I could go on and on, right? We'll have a clear understanding, black and white. This is all these effects, right? That this, negative media has, right? On individuals, on kids, or groups of people, or society, on all the different levels, we'll have all that. And on the other hand, right, we'll have all this information, all this research demonstrating the healing benefits of mantras or sacred vibrations, divine images, right? how it impacts the environment, right? How it impacts water, right? Or just the field of a theater, movie theater, for example, or living room in your house. How it impacts the environment, how it impacts the society, how it impacts the culture, and how it impacts the body, how it impacts the mind, the spirit, all of that will be proven very, 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 very clearly. The positive life, enhancing impacts, right, of a spiritually, enlightened media. Okay, well, there you have it. And then everything, we can have the extremes. This is most beneficial in the extreme. This is really creates this kind of, even creates illness, right? In the body, whatever it is. This is the extreme. You got the whole thing, everything in between. Now, it's up to you. And the thing is, even though there's a vested interest, billions of dollars, right, in keeping people, in this kind of dark, unaware ignorance, right? I mean, if you're mass producing side effect causing drugs, right? You might want people to stay in that, right? If you're creating these billion-dollar films that just have this negative impact, and just because it's easy to produce in your mind, because you don't know how to inspire people, you don't know how to create an inspirational, divinely, wonderful experience, a beautiful life, enhancing film, and it's just easier to get some guns and make a movie. Okay, yeah, you want people to stay in this side, right? But even though there's this, industry, right, and even on a governmental level, right? Well, if we're all corrupt, if we're all corrupt politicians and doing all these things, well, yeah, the more unaware people are, wow, we could just keep on going. And if people start healing and becoming empowered, right? If they start awakening up to this kind of delusion, right, of this bankrupt culture, this doing more harm than good, right? This education system is failing, right? That's creating mass delusion and suffering. Well, yeah, if you want to continue that system, well, yeah, you don't want an enlightened media. What's the use? So it may seem like, wow, Ben, you're just all on your own. Like, who's gonna? I mean, yeah, there's some spiritual people, and how are you gonna confront all this? It's impossible. It's just gonna keep on, growing, right? But the thing is, the consciousness, right, is an intelligent. It is an intelligence, right? And it's naturally life-sustaining, even in the DNA, right? And it's just because, if you're conditioned, so much to say, this is good, this is good, this is good. Coca-Cola tastes great. Tastes great, yeah. 30 packets of sugar, tastes great. Well, not really, but if you just put some corn syrup, then yeah, tastes great. This will be the drink of choice for millions. So yeah, if you're conditioned into that, there's a possibility of really thinking that this is a good thing, right? So that's this kind of realm, that people are stuck in. But what I'm saying is, when it starts, when this kind of enlightened kind of media, this healing kind of conscious media, when we start actually, demonstrating, right, on a broad field of scientific investigation, making it clear, right, then naturally, you know, anybody that is wanting to heal or to actually is concerned about the future of the generations to come, is concerned about the environment, is concerned about the survival of the human species, well, naturally, without any kind of dogma or you know, unnecessary belief or any of this, will naturally say, wait a minute, let's get rid of this. And let's start, you know, taking on a divinely inspired media. A media of bliss and enlightened intelligence. You know, one that looks, you know, the unity of the human species, right? The brotherhood of human beings, the sisterhood, right? That comes from that kind of enlightened angle rather than, yeah, let's just create some conflict because it sells, it creates this drama. And it will take some degree of time, right, for people to get over their addiction to this dualistic drama. Because it's being fed so much by the so-called mass media of today. So it will take a little time and effort, but again, it's a necessity to infuse, right, the media with the bliss of enlightened consciousness. So that's the future of media, and the reason I'm making these long videos is it's not just some. It doesn't mean just, okay, well, yeah, now we have an enlightened media, but everybody's just continuing in their ignorance. No, it's not the answer. It's not like in itself, right? It's just making, you know, painting a nice picture over reality. No, it means that by having a core, right, of enlightened media, this kind of proliferated, you know, experience sharing network, right, of everything that's digital. You know, when that's in this kind of enlightened, healing, spiritual, inspiring kind of totality, right? Then naturally, that's not just some kind of thing over here. No, that's gonna just affect every part of life, right? It's gonna affect the education system, the way politics works, right? The way our so-called medical system works. Everything, right, will be affected. The way we raise our kids. And eventually, an enlightened media is a media that disappears. And it's already, in some sense, disappearing. You know, the big room of a computer, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's just in your pocket. It's on your phone. And the big wires and cables, well, now it's just Wi-Fi. It's just in the air. So the media, in some sense, is already disappearing. But what I mean is that the inherent potentials of consciousness that this media is basically just mirroring, right? You know, showing, look, okay, you can have all this vast information of the internet just in the air. Well, don't you think at the same, you know, what that's showing is that, hey, you get all this consciousness, all the mass experience of consciousness is available in the air. Just download it through your nervous system. Just refine your own nervous system. Awaken the inner energy of your body, and you can experience the same thing. Virtually, I mean, you can practically the same, if not beyond. I mean, beyond information that's not on the internet. You can download through the cosmic connection. Cosmic Wi-Fi. And so the media that is kind of starts, sharing all this kind of spiritual knowledge. What is, because ultimately spirituality is saying, look inside, it's all within. Not just this or that, but everything is within. So the media, the spiritual media will be reinforcing this, right? And it seems like a contradiction because you're creating something that you're gonna put outside or put on a screen, so people are gonna be distracted and look at that. Not necessarily. That's because again, the body's a medium. So you look at an enlightened being and it creates a sense of inspiration. To look inside yourself, to realize the same thing that he realized. So you can do that with film the same way. Like, wow, this is an amazing experience. And I visualize, well, you say, okay, well, you can experience that inside without looking at the screen? Well, yeah, that's the whole point. So, and I like the media is in some sense a media that goes beyond this mass kind of grid of media. And that's the very essence of it, is that it's inspiring, people to look beyond just the media is some kind of wall of reality or some kind of container of existence. And the technology that it becomes more and more subtle, it becomes smaller and smaller, phones or whatever, it will all kind of coincide with the spiritualization of the mass media. The technology itself becomes spiritualized. And so the connection with the technology will become more and more subtle. And so eventually, beyond this kind of holographic experience, eventually you won't even need a room, right? We'll have a kind of an electromagnetic kind of hovering field, right? You go sit in there, and whatever thought or emotion you experience, you visualize, very intensely, you create the strong visualization, it's recorded. The full 360-degree view, it's recorded. It's digital. Your experience has become digital. What does that mean? It means you can take it and put it online. And so we won't just have YouTube, we'll have Experience Tube, right? Memory Tube. So if you go on vacation and you experience all these great things and you want to share with your friends, what you did on the weekend, well, yeah, I can tell you a couple words about it, but hey, why don't I just give you this disc or whatever? It's got my experience recorded. And this technology is not an impossibility. Because again, when we have a science that understands the consciousness is not just confined to the body or mind, that it radiates out this kind of information or whatever you want to call it. Having a certain highly graphical, MRI or some kind of system that looks at the patterns in the brain and creates this kind of representation at a basic level. If you think of a circle really strongly, it prints out a circle. You think about letters A, B, C, D. It prints out the letters you're thinking. We already have technology that can move a mouse just based on your mind, right? Just thinking about moving a mouse can move the cursor. Technology is already available for people with disabilities. So it will come out. This is maybe in the 50 to 100 year range, right? But again, you're a basic graphical or highly rich, visual, three-dimensional experience of your memory will be able to be digitized. And then you can do anything. You can rearrange it. You can share it with your friends. You could connect with it live. right? What am I experiencing right now? Why am I talking to you on a phone? Just look. And they'll see this kind of graphical representation of everything that's around that individual. And again, but if we're still stuck in this kind of unconscious mess of a media, thriving on fear and greed, then we don't need that kind of powerful technology, right? But it's inevitability. People are just the scientists and all these. It's well funded by the entertainment industry and all different kinds of industry. It's well funded. People are gonna develop these kinds of tools. That's why, again, having a spiritual attitude, right, becomes an absolute necessity with these powerful tools. But the same thing is when you can download an experience, you can record a basic representation of whatever you're experiencing and give it to a friend. You'll start realizing, well, wait a minute, if we have a strong connection in consciousness, then we'll be able to do that, without any kind of exchange of digital information. And when, enough people start realizing that this, having a sacred, divine attitude towards existence is the most beneficial thing that one can possibly do or have, then all this technology, all these thousands of mirrors can start reflecting the divine. The very kind of pure, direct way. So that's what I'm saying, is the future of media is the mass enlightenment of humanity. And, we're gonna have to get over this idea of my way is the best way. Or this object is sacred, or this, this religion is sacred, but that's not. This incarnation is great, but that one's not. Or, thinking a tree is divine, right? Oh, that's nature. That's nature worship, right? We can't accept that. But if you carve it into a statue of Jesus, for example, and hang it up on a wall, whoa, now it's sacred. The same tree. So I don't mean to pick on a particular religion here, but that's the thing. It's this kind of so-called Christian view that seeks to convert or destroy anything that's not its idea of sacredness, and any other tradition that has that kind of destructive, life-denying, ignorant views. We'll have to get over all that. Because when this kind of media is filled with this sense of enlightenment, right? What it means is that it's seeing all things as divine. Ultimately, all beings is divine. Again, one, it is a part of this essential nature of universal consciousness. And the media will reflect that in beautiful ways. And so that's kind of another hurdle, right? We have the kind of materialistic, people that are, just science and all this spirituality is bad, we'll just go on drinking our Coca-Cola, whatever it is. And you have this kind of dogmatic group, right? You have all these, outdated, religious ideas that are not beneficial to human consciousness. They're gonna have to get over that. And then you have these, vested interests, right? And keeping people controlled, right? Selling products by fear and greed. They're gonna have to get over that. And you have these political structures, right? That are based on, hiding information and keeping people disempowered and, using the fear of violence to kind of as the background of political power. They're gonna have to get over that. But that's kind of gonna be a result. Again, it's not gonna, the way, when I say get over that, it's not gonna be any kind of forcing, right? Enlightened media is a media that naturally kind of inspires. And enlightened media is based on the truth, right? Of intelligence, of the consciousness, right? Of the universal nature of the human experience. The fundamental way that cosmos exists is as energy. You could call it, subtle vibrations. And that this massive network of media is just sending out vibrations all over the place. And when you just, it's not a matter of rewiring the network or changing the computers. No, it's just a matter of realizing, okay, we're sending out all these vibrations, right? And these are the effect of these vibrations. And then, wow, if we just kind of have these, divinely, healing, vibrations, right? That have been proven by objective science to create this positive effect on the body environment. Then that's all we gotta do, right? Is change the vibration. And ultimately, because it's such a widespread, powerful, media, right? It's almost a collective, it's almost a nervous system, a collective consciousness. Ultimately, that whole mass will become sattvic. And if you don't understand, sattvic it means purified. And we'll create this kind of, almost this mass, I don't want to say stillness, but it's like peace around the whole planet. With everybody tuning in, to the highest truths of existence. Whatever form, they're connected to. Even if it's nature. Or just the clouds or some, image of the cosmos. Man, that makes me, really feel, this kind of blissful thing. Well, it's fine, whatever it is. But that awareness will be there, right? It'll be naturally, because awareness is a positive reinforcing cycle, just like this kind of negative cycle of delusion. It's just reinforcing itself, and we just keep, more and more violent films, more and more violent video games. All this is just kind of this negative circle just going down a hill into delusion. mass suffering for millions. Well, the enlightened media, right? It just creates this, powerful, circling, beneficial cycle leading people, leading human consciousness, right? Towards enlightenment. So that's the future of media.